Of all the dimensions, parallel, evil, that one in the cinema that sprays you with water, the third dimension is probably our favourite. And yet gaming history is littered with games that played fast and loose with this most sacred plane of space-time. These games failed to respect the power that 3D game technology conferred when it became widely available in the mid to late 90s, and the result is these unsightly messes, whose greatest contribution was to show us exactly how not to go 3D. God rest their crazy pioneer souls. Here are the points where a series went 3D too soon.
Some things never need changing, like Tetris or this t-shirt.
Oh, what does that smell?
But I suppose you can see how, after bringing Tetris to the world by way of the Game Boy in 1989, Nintendo felt some pressure to mix up the formula of this iconic puzzler, in which different shaped blocks, or tetraminos, must be formed into solid horizontal lines, at which point they'll disappear with a sound so satisfying you'll probably make an involuntary noise. That shake-up would arrive on Nintendo's doomed, nausea-inducing Virtual Boy console, with a game that took the popular Tetris mechanic and turned it on its head, then cut off that head and made you look down its neck at its pulsating wireframe organs. In 3D Tetris, you look down a three-dimensional well and the tetraminos fall away from you. Your job is to clear layers in that well by fitting blocks together while the game's camera drifts confusingly around the playing field. The result is a game that is somehow even less fun to play than it is to look at. On the plus side, the headache you get from trying to figure out 3D Tetris's hideous geometry might distract you from the more normal headaches caused by playing any game on the Virtual Boy. So, you know, swings and roundabouts. Final proof that Tetris went 3D too soon would arrive just 1 year later, in the form of the colourful Tetrisphere for the N64. Which showed that it is possible to make a genuinely fun version of Tetris in the 3D realm, even if no version of Tetris has ever quite matched up to that spectacular Game Boy original. Don't ever change.
Seriously though, what is that smell? Did a rat get in the walls and die?
Hey, we can't let him get away! Let's get to my workshop and we'll take the tornado!
Yeah!
You guys go. I have some unfinished business to take care of.
No problem, Knuckles. We'll take care of everything here.
Sonic's messy move to 3D is made all the more tragic by how great the character's heyday was. I mean, he had a fox for a butler. Living the dream. Indeed, the huge success of Sega's blue mascot in the early 1990s is well documented, and probably doesn't need reiterating here, any more than we need to tell you that pizza is delicious, or that Michael Jackson was kind of a big deal in the pop world. As the decade wore on though, the signs were all there that the world's fastest hedgehog wasn't going to make a comfortable leap into the 3D era. For every 2D smash hit like Sonic the Hedgehog 2 or 3, there was a slightly shaky isometric effort like Sonic 3D Blast, or Sonic Labyrinth, in which Dr. Robotnik has made Sonic wear slow-down boots, robbing him of his trademark speed, which must have seemed like a fun premise for a Sonic game at some point. So when Sonic went fully 3D for Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast in 1998, unsurprisingly, the transition wasn't a smooth one. Though the advanced graphics blew our minds, an otherwise solid game was bogged down by nagging issues like, how should the camera work on a 3D Sonic game? And wait, did Sonic always have this many spikes on him? Because this feels like a lot of spikes. A problem known to professors of 3Dology as the Bart Simpson conundrum. Sonic Adventure wasn't a terrible game by any measure, but definitely marks the point where a series as hot as a hedgehog in a volcano became as shaky as a 10-year-old who's just seen what happens to a hedgehog in a volcano.
Oh no!
And I never went back to Hawaii again, let me tell you. What were we talking about again?
You'd think making an Earthworm Jim game would be easy. Just add some cows, some rockets, and whatever crazy 90s phrases haven't been trademarked yet. Cowabunga!
Ma'am, I represent the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, please cease and desist use of that phrase.
And hey, who knows, maybe it was an absolute breeze cooking up the first two Earthworm Jim games, which brought a surreal and subversive sense of humour to the platforming genre. Also cows. Lots of cows.
Well done.
But what's certain is that the third game in the series, Earthworm Jim 3D, was clearly not that easy to make, only arriving in 1999 after many months of troubled development, and nearly 3 years after the Earthworm Jim cartoon stopped airing. Sadly, Jim's 3D outing wasn't worth the wait, with much criticism aimed at the camera, which back in the early days of 3D was a tricky thing to perfect. The premise was suitably daft though. Having been knocked out by a cow, Jim embarks on an adventure inside his own subconscious, collecting his lost marbles and golden udders along the way. It's basically the plot of Inside Out, years before Pixar thought to do it.
I don't remember any golden udders.
I said basically, jeez. Critics complained of repetitive gameplay and frustrating boss battles, while not even Jim's faithful blaster could liven up the platforming action. Not even when Jim took control of a chicken weapon that fired its own eggs. Sunny side up, friends? Now that's what I call a hero in a half shell.
All right, you were warned. Come on.
I'm
Come
sorry.
on.
No,
in the
I'm
car,
sorry. I'm
in the
sorry.
car.
I'm sorry.
You said 30 minutes, man. It's been an hour.
Yeah, whatever. Listen, I'm thinking about fighting again.
Ah, come on, Cody. Not again.
I said, listen, Kyle. I'm onto something here.
If you thought the Final Fight series of beat-em-up games ended in the 90s, it's possible your brain has forcibly deleted all knowledge of them ever going 3D. Trust us, your brain is only looking out for you. Back in the days of yore, this side-scrolling series was the toast of the town, thanks to its enjoyably straightforward gameplay, which saw you A, walk from left to right, and B, shatter the bones of any thugs or 9-foot policemen who got in your way. And if that wasn't enough, Final Fights 1 through 3 spoiled us by letting us walk towards and away from the camera, which some would argue was as 3D as this high-kicking franchise ever needed to get. But then, in 1999, the unthinkable happened, and the film Wild Wild West came out. Also, Final Fight went 3D, that was bad too. To be fair, the first 3D Final Fight, the little-known Final Fight Revenge for arcade and Sega Saturn, could have been worse. Sure, it traded the lovable 2D side-scrolling visuals for a blocky one-on-one fighter that wasn't very good, but at least it had a zombie version of the bad guy doing Thriller over the end credits. But the real gut punch came with the higher-profile Final Fight Streetwise in 2006, by which time 3D games were perfectly normal and frequently good. But those adjectives sadly can't be applied to Streetwise, an extremely dodgy beat-em-up with a colour palette as gritty as a sandwich at a beach picnic, in which you play the brother of Cody from the very first game, who is now free from prison, but still wears the top from his prison jumpsuit. You know, I don't think they let you keep those, Cody. Sadly, for a series based around uncomplicated SmackDown thrills, Streetwise just wasn't any fun, making it hard to believe the Final Fight series wouldn't have been better off if it had stayed in the two-dimensional realm. Happily, my brain has now deleted it again, along with whatever film Will Smith did after Enemy of the State but before The Legend of Bagger Vance. Ah, bliss.
Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen have been kidnapped. Who will save the day? You are Superman.
It is a truth universally acknowledged that Superman games are just generally not that great. So-so. Middling. Meh, if you will. But even amidst the tradition of unremarkable Superman-based games, Superman's first video game foray into the third dimension is outstandingly bad. Outstandingly bad. Sorry, that was a weird place to pause. Yes, you really have to be going some to overshadow 2D mediocrity like the death and return of Superman, but Superman, the New Superman Adventures, pulls it off with the kind of pure-hearted commitment you'd expect from the Man of Steel himself.
In short time, your fate will be sealed, Superman.
This game, more commonly known as Superman 64, came out in 1999 for the Nintendo 64. Players might have picked up that N64 controller expecting that an invigorating third dimension could break Superman's run of bad luck licensing his likeness to 2D games. But they put it down, thinking Supes would have been better off sticking to just the 2 dimensions until they got those right. This This early 3D adventure takes place in a virtual version of the city of Metropolis, created by the dastardly Lex Luthor, who is a hopefully better supervillain than he is level designer, or else this is going to be a very short game. This city is shrouded in a green haze because, that's kryptonite fog? Which Lex Luthor put there to keep Superman from being too super, and not because the game choked on trying to render anything in the medium to far distance, so stop asking. Although, if it's a virtual city and Superman is trapped inside a simulation which was made by Lex Luthor, then why didn't Lex Luthor just simulate Superman to have no powers? I mean, why didn't he just simulate him to have no arms and legs, or like no eyes, or like he just flops around, or like he's got like crazy hair, he looks weird. Anyway, Lex Luthor has trapped Kal-El, son of Jor-El, in this green hellscape with Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen and the rest. So it's up to Superman to save the non-super people with his superpowers, which according to Superman 64 are primarily flying through hoops and mostly just that. If your perfect superhero fantasy is flying jerkily through hoops and occasionally punching, fill your boots. If it isn't, write it down on paper, steer clear of Superman 64 and send that piece of paper to DC for inspiration for the next Superman game. They've got to get it right one day.
It's hard to know the right time to invest in a new technology. Will VR catch on this time around? Is it safe to use one of these iPods that I'm hearing so much about?
Yes.
We'll see. But if you're a maker of 2D video games and wondering whether this new 3D you've been hearing about is ready for public consumption, well, here's an easy test. If it looks and sounds like this, the answer is no.
I knew I should have taken that left turn at Uranus! Was it something I said? What could possibly go wrong?
Ah, what the heck was that? The answer is Bubsy 3D, which was released on the PlayStation in 1996, the latest in a line of games starring Bubsy, a wise-talking bobcat with an exclamation mark on his chest, the most in-your-face of all the punctuation. Bubsy's two-dimensional adventures were never exemplary, but did carry the distinction of not making your eyes feel like they're on fire, which is the only way to describe looking at his first and to date only 3D outing.
Now, what would a platform game be without platforms? I wonder if there's any extra lives up there.
To give Bubsy his due, this unfortunate platformer had the bad luck to be released mere weeks apart from the brilliant Mario 64, whose elegant controls and rich environments set the template for what 3D platformers should look like. Then again, did you really have to be a visionary to realise that people didn't want to play in a world that looked like a chess set that hadn't loaded properly? Just goes to show that when it comes to technology, only fools rush in.
Oh my goodness, Luke, look what I found in a drawer.
Get that thing away from me!
Some things get better with age. A fine bottle of wine, or the actor Mads Mikkelsen. And we'd put 1992's Contra 3 Alien Wars in that category too, because its blocky sprite artwork has aged fantastically well, and is practically bursting with action movie machismo, which is impressive for a game where the characters have no discernible eyes or mouths. Not only that, but Contra 3 was the point where this long-running series perfected the run-and-gun formula, with alien-slaying gameplay that was hard as nails, but curiously addictive. And as any scientist will tell you, when you've got that formula just right, the next thing you do is set it on fire and see what happens. What happened in this case was Contra Legacy of War for the PlayStation and Sega Saturn, which dropped the Contra run-and-gun experience into an awkward top-down 3D world. While Legacy of War resembled Contra in some respects, namely the permanent barrage of bullets and the muscular heroes, the game apparently forgot that if it was hard to keep track of endless waves of enemies and their projectiles in 2 dimensions, it was damn near impossible in 3. It may have soured the series' reputation, but Legacy of War deserves credit for really going all in, as the game shipped with a pair of red and blue anaglyph 3D glasses so you could do your level best to enjoy, well, this. Plus, at the end, the game's 4 heroes all sail into space on a chunk of exploded planet, which, congratulations if you had that on your Contra ending bingo card. Damn, I had jump a robot shark into a volcano. So close.
The 90s were weird, weren't they? Yes, those are some of the 3D games that shouldn't have been 3D. They should have stuck to 2D. Can you think of any others that you've pushed back into your subconscious memory? Any gaming nightmares that you would like to unrepress and share in the comments? Pop them down below. Oh, come on, Luke, you know you want to. What you also want to do is hit that like button and check out these videos. Lots of more videos from us telling you all about video game things, and if you really like us, you should click this subscribe orb, which is actually a subscribe sphere because it's 2D, but then I am 3D. Oh, Luke is magical, but it stays in the same place.